this week, I am so happy to say that we have the stars of CMARC's Chris Kelly and Kristen Tripp Kelly returning once more. They were on Celtic Connections a while ago in our past series, but tonight we brought them back now that we are finished recording and we are almost ready to release our feature film to you. And we thought it would be fun to bring them back to talk about their time on set, what the process was like, and to answer some questions about the difference between theater and film. So it is my very distinct pleasure to reintroduce you to the stars of CMARC's Chris Kelly and Kristen Tripp Kelly. Welcome, my friends.
Thank you.
Hello, Kate. So good to see you.
So good to see you. We're so happy to have you back. And let's just jump right in. I mean, man, now the recording is over. It is in the can, as they say, and we are just now a little, weeks, not even a week away from the release of CMARC's. So now that the process is under your belts, tell us what has been some of the biggest differences between working for a camera and working in front of an audience. Kristen, what do you think?
Well, yeah, we love our live audience. Those of us who do stage acting really appreciate that moment when we finally get to share it on opening night with a crowd of people and get that immediate feedback and, you know, that healthy adrenaline that really lifts our performances. So I remember being worried about going into the shoot without that element. I just wondered if there would be the electricity in the room. But I remember my wise friend, Chris Kelly, saying that we could think about the cameras as audience as well. And that really helped me. I mean, they were observing us and reacting to us. And I think that when we did start the shoot, that the energy in the room was charged. I was happy to discover. And I think that was in large part because of what the whole company did, Pan Am and Irish did, to kind of make the room safe and professional and comfortable.
Chris, did you feel the same? Did you have the same connection to the camera during filming, or was it just a completely strange and unusual experience for you?
Well, it was certainly strange and unusual. Interestingly, what just comes to mind is that the first scene in the play, which anyone who buys a ticket will soon see, is a very long and somewhat complicated back and forth scene with both characters not in the same location. So there was concern about doing that first, because I think there was concern on everyone's part. Was it going to be tedious? How are we going to feel doing that section on the first day? Because it's literally the first scene in the play. But to me, it felt like that first day felt very much like what we call in the old theater a stop and start. When you're working on a scene and you work on it a bit and you stop and you go back and you adjust things and maybe you run a longer part. So it was a really long version of that. But it just felt like something we always do. So it was easy on that first day to forget the cameras were there for me. The second day I found a little more nerve-wracking, because then we started to introduce things like cameras following you around on stage and things like that. But yeah, like I agree. The room felt really charged, and yeah, it became easy to think of all of the people that were there as the audience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the exciting challenges? Like you're saying, Chris, you know, recording things out of order, which is so different than how we rehearse and run a play, or you know, going back to the dressing room and preparing for the next scene. There are very few people in the theater, which is not normally the case. Usually the dressing room's buzzing and there's front of house and back of house. I mean, did you feel that the atmosphere in the Andrews was contained and helped to support the experience? Or what were some of the differences of the space itself?
I mean, for us, we were the only ones allowed in the dressing room except for Susan Droz, who does hair and makeup, and Vivian, who did the costumes and did wardrobe. And it's not unusual for them to be back in the dressing room in, non-pandemic times. So that was actually comforting, I think, to both of us. I don't want to speak for Kristen, but that made it feel like just sort of like the usual thing that we were doing. And also, I had to do a couple really emotional scenes, and as people are wont to do in the dressing room, people got real chatty, and I had to go find a place to be quiet. So that, it felt like, that was all very comforting though, really, because it didn't feel artificial. It didn't feel strange. It kind of felt like home.
Mm. Kristen, how did you feel about the space itself? Did it feel, there's some similarities of feeling like it was just another production, right?
Yeah, but I guess what reminds you that you're being filmed is the proximity of the cameras. We always talk about how close the audience is at the Andrews, but the cameras were even closer at times. We had the dolly and some handheld shots, and that took a different kind of concentration. And I was thinking about how helpful that first week of rehearsal was, Chris, when Fortune had us dropping in every word of the text on the breath, so it would just be there for us, so we could be grounded when we were in performance. And I was grateful for that when it was being shot. It was in us, and we could let the cameras come to us. And I'll just back up what Chris said about the dressing room being a real comfort for the most part. It was wonderful to have that familiar team whenever we got off set.
Agreed on all of that. I think something that was strange, or something to get used to in all of this, was we had some really emotional scenes, a number of emotional scenes, and they'd be shooting scenes from different angles, and then we do it again, they shoot it from a different angle, or they shoot just a piece of it. But there was more than one occasion when we do something really emotional, maybe potentially the characters are in tears, and they'd say, okay, now we're gonna film your faces, and I would be like, what? That was good. Like that was a good take. Oh yeah, we were getting your profile. Awesome. We were filming the back of your head. Great. I'm sure that's fantastic. Hope I can do it again. Let's see what happens. But I mean, I obviously, of course, we did plenty of takes, and oh God, I remember Saturday, there was a scene that we shot at the end of the day Saturday. That was the end of the third day when we were getting, at that point, really like very punchy, and we were supposed to be somewhat intoxicated in the scene. So I suggested that perhaps we eat a lot of Sour Patch Kids. And our stage manager, Michelle Eisen, was nice enough to go procure some. And we were a mess. But I think it worked.
It felt like a 2-show day,
Oh my God. Yeah.
3-show day, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I can attest to the fact that it works. I mean, the footage during that scene, I know which scene you're referring to, it's just glorious. I mean, the two of you, your energy is illuminating beyond the cameras and to the audience, even at home, so at the Sour Patch Kids works. Great. So what most excites you about this project? And side question, what do you love about your character? Like, what connection did you find to your character? What do you think that the patrons will really delight in seeing, either from the project itself or from your characters? Kristen?
What excites me about this project is in part the access. I was really excited to hear about the ASL interpreter and the open caption option. And I just think the price per household is really affordable. It sounds like I'm doing a commercial, but I actually am excited about this, because I think maybe folks who have never walked through the doors before might get to see what the company does. And when we are able to open back up, they could come check us out, and that it's always going to be this kind of time capsule for us of what we could accomplish, this beautiful thing that we accomplished as a team during the pandemic. I feel super lucky that we'll have a record of it. And Timothea, how do I relate to her? I guess I relate to her drive. I mean, she's just singularly focused at times on what she wants. Yeah, she's a piece of work at times, and I can be too.
Chris, what about you?
I'm anxious to see it. Like that's my most that's the takeaway that's at the tip of my tongue right now. Which is, I think, pertinent because I didn't know that I would be, before we started this. The idea of like, oh my God, we're gonna have to watch ourselves, not like watch ourselves do a 2-minute scene, but do an hour and 45-minute play. Which still I'm sure is gonna be daunting and maybe like watching between fingers, etc. But yeah, I'm just everyone works so hard on it. And I'm still not quite sure personally, like how I did it or, how all of that happened in that period of time. But it did. And so I'm really, really excited for people to see it. I think what I love about him is his chill. He has a chill that I long for. He's a chill that I long for that I certainly don't come by naturally. So, but yeah, I had a lot of fun discovering him. We had a little break in rehearsals for a week in the middle of the process, and I went to a lake house and was like out in the water saying his lines, which was a really awesome experience.
So lovely. All of that comes across. Like, I'm so excited for patrons to see it. It is so soon now, and it is such a surprise for patrons to see. You're right, Chris. Everybody has worked so hard, and we're so excited to share it with everybody. So I want to thank you both for spending another evening with us to share your thoughts on the process now on the other side of it. And we really invite all of our patrons to tune in October 16th through November 1st for Sea Marks by Gardner McKay. Tickets are now on sale at irishclassical.com/Sea Marks. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for supporting us along the way. Tune in next Friday for Celtic Connections at 7:30, same Irish time, same Irish channel. Thank you all, and good night.
Dear Miss Stiles.
Dearest Colin, I hope you don't think I am in any way trying to court you. After all, two lives could not be more different than ours.
Words is nothing!
Words is everything to us! I do think it's poetic when you talk about your life at the Heads.
I cannot know why a city girl like yourself would want to listen to the sludge of a fisherman.
It's not sludge. Have you ever left the Heads?
Last night, I dreamt we were out on the water in lightning.
Colin.
Timothea. Sea sonnets. What is this?
You look as though you're going to be sick, Colin.
The letters I wrote you are in this book? Is that why you were writing me?
The night bird calls
Dear love.
and shadows creep into my mind, into my sleep. I I do not
When I saw
know
you,
if I
I
shall
knew.
rise.